Welcome back to the Flame in the Flood Animal Friend Trophy. We're going to be moving right along here. I made some notes and I went back and went through the first two videos, and there's a couple things that it's a little bit of information I should probably clear up that we're going to go through a little bit here. And I also figured some of the goings on in this video will be a little bit the same of what we've seen in the first two, so I might, if we have time, I might go through some of the other trophies from the game that we can just kind of run through so you guys know what you're looking at if you're going for this. So when we stopped last episode, I thought that I ended getting hurt and I just kind of quit out. That was not the case, actually. I just kind of got to the point where I decided to stop playing. And if you happen to watch to the end of the video, I went to the mailbox and there was a churchgoer goal. We're going to see that pop up in about 2 islands after this. So that'll kind of catch you up to speed. But there was really nothing else going on that island. There was a couple animals, but I didn't bother. Right now we're getting 3 hardwares and frames together. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time here kind of figuring out whether I want the shelter or the stove. And ultimately I end up picking the shelter. In this playthrough, the stove is kind of more of a priority because you want to keep yourself warm, and you want to be able to cook anything you get your hands on. Sometimes, I mean, the thing about campfires, if you do come upon a campfire, and there's a lot more campfires in the campaign than there is in Endless, the campfire itself will create a ring of safety for you. So once you are in and around that fire, no animals are going to bother you. But if it rains, then your security is gone instantly. So, you know, you can still use the camps for that purpose, but having the stove on your raft means anytime you need to warm up because you're wearing just insulated gear, or anytime you want to warm up some food so that you can safely eat it, the stove is going to help you out. But we go for shelter anyway. And shelter is great at any point when you are either getting off your raft, getting into an island, or about to leave. You always have the option of sleeping on your raft. And the only small downside, which is a little bit larger of a downside in this playthrough, is that if it rains while you're sleeping on the raft, you actually can get wet, and you can feel the difference in temperature if you're sleeping on the raft during a rainstorm. If you get off on an island and you sleep inside a bus, or you sleep inside a shack or the church or whatever, then you'll be actually dry. So that's the only difference there. So for this playthrough, the stove is pretty much a much bigger priority for you at this point. But the shelter is good to have. Of course, if you're playing Endless, you'd want to work on getting the shelter sooner rather than later, so you could spend 40 days sleeping on your raft instead of any shelter on an island, so that you can work on the Under the Stars trophy, survive 40 days in Endless mode without sleeping in a shelter. One of the things I may have mentioned earlier about ash cakes and some of the worms and things you can eat, some things that are perishable and some things that are not. I find it kind of funny. Corn spoils within a few days. I think it's 10 days corn spoils, but ash cakes never spoil. So if you can get 2 pieces of corn, which again aren't the easiest to get once you get out. Oh, the white wolf. We'll talk about the white wolf in just a second here. Just let me finish my thought. So the corn spoils within 10 days, but 2 of them make an ash cake that will live forever, which is crazy. And I had said earlier that grubs spoil. They actually don't. Grubs don't spoil. It's night crawlers. Night crawlers do. And night crawlers you normally get at the bait shacks. That's another correction I wanted to mention. They're called bait shacks, not fishing wharfs or whatever I assumed they were. So here we are on an island, and the white wolf just showed up. I believe this is the first encounter we have. We had the boar king in the previous episode. This is the white wolf. This is the most rare and most valuable animal skin. If you have a chance to get your hands on him, the white wolf's skin or hide, when you make a jacket out of it, you'll need 2 leather kits and a stitching kit to make the jacket, but it will warm you up like a bear hide would, and it will also protect you from any it'll give a good chance of protecting you from lacerations or any other animal attacks. If you're being pursued by a wolf and he scratches you, there's like a nearly 50-50 chance that you won't get hurt if you're wearing the white wolf jacket. The elder wolf is very similar. The elder wolf is a red colored large wolf that you might encounter, and we'll be seeing him later in this playthrough. But his hide has the same effect mostly, but I guess it's a little less of a protective jacket. It does still give you the chance of not getting hurt through lacerations, but the white wolf jacket apparently seems to protect you a little bit more. There's the churchgoer goal that we got at the end of the last video. Since we decided to restart that island, just get right off it. Now we have that one. But as you see, he did run away. Both special wolves are very particular and very elusive. If either of them, and again, we are not working on killing any animals, but if you do come across one of them in your normal campaign or in endless, keep in mind that trying to feed them tainted meat or bait, or hitting them with an arrow, or if there's any other animals on the island like a snake bite or a bear, if they get spooked, if they get hurt, if they have any reason to run away, they will, and then they'll be gone, and you won't have a chance to get them, kill them, and get their meat and their precious hide. So keep that in mind. The only way to get either of those wolves is to use a spear trap. Lure them into a spear trap before they get too scared and run away, and you will benefit from their skin. And I think you get 2 pieces of meat from each of those special wolves. And you'll also, when you're working on crafty, you will need both the elder wolf and the white wolf hides to make those special jackets, so that you can eventually get crafty for making every single item that you can craft. While we were on that island, we got the church goer goal, as I mentioned. You get a leather kit for that. Another good item to have if we are lucky enough to procure some warmer animal skins. We're going to make use of those. Something I haven't mentioned before is mulberries. I know we picked up a bunch, I think on the previous island. That was a sapling I just walked right past, I guess. Not worrying. Oh, that's right. I haven't been worrying about saplings because I don't really need to make any traps or anything, so I haven't been bothering with them. But on this playthrough especially, mulberries are really great. They give you 2 points of nutrition, for food, and 4 points of hydration for water, each one. So if you are able to collect 4 or 5 at a time, and you eat the whole stack, then you'll get a nice little boost to your nutrition and your hydration levels. But keep in mind, they spoil after 5 days, which is something I never really realized. And I just kind of discovered that as I was playing Endless and just kind of checking things out and looking at when things spoil, because I just kind of got into the mode that every time I grabbed a bunch of mulberries, I would hold on to them for a couple islands, but I would always eat them as soon as I needed anything, because they're really good because they fill both needs a little bit, and they're usually pretty prevalent. The other thing that you should always have in your inventory, that I don't believe I've talked about before, is splints. I know we've talked a lot about bandages in previous episodes, but splints are usually just as useful. And the thing about when you get attacked and you break a bone, for the most part, if you don't treat that broken bone, it's not going to cause you any real problems in the long run. You're not going to get some kind of infection from a broken bone and then need penicillin or need something else. But I have read some people's assumptions in the past in looking at this game and just chatting with people about it. I have read that people seem to think that if you leave a broken bone without setting it in a splint, that Scout gets kind of a funny walk for the rest of the playthrough, and she never properly mends all the way. I haven't really tested that theory, but the splints I think they need rags and saplings, maybe some alcohol. I'm not entirely sure. It's another thing I probably should have looked up, but because you're going to be running into so many boars, and even the bears too. If you get a bear attack and if you actually get free, you might end up with a broken bone or two. Of course, as we mentioned before, every time Scout gets hurt, especially with a broken bone or a laceration, it slows her down and it makes it more difficult to get away from an animal when you're being attacked. So having splints on hand is definitely a good thing, so that you can get yourself out of that scary situation. While we're going through and correcting some of the things that I mentioned before, leather kits. As I mentioned, you get a leather kit for getting the churchgoer trophy. That is 1 rabbit skin, 1 nuts and bolts, and the metal hammer. I think we had talked about the tools you can make and how you need a boar hide for the steel knife. Metal hammer, the only thing it does is make leather kits. if you're having the same kind of luck I am and you're fulfilling these goals, you probably don't even need to worry about the metal hammer. Because the metal hammer, if you remember, uses 3 nuts and bolts, which could be used for a raft upgrade instead. So keep that in mind. But the steel knife, on the other hand, it makes the bow, the arrow, and it also makes any wolf or bear hide gear, any pieces of clothing. So again, you need a boar hide to make the steel knife, and then you would need leather kits to make any part of your outfit using a wolf hide or a bear hide. So you're talking about you need a boar to die to use that hide to make the steel knife. You need either to acquire leather kits through these goals that we've been looking at, or by getting a rabbit to die to make 1 leather kit. So you probably need a bunch of leather kits in order to make anything worthwhile out of the 3rd animal that you need to die, which would be either the wolves or the bears. And again, nothing you're going to come across is going to kill a bear for you. So don't worry about bears. Just forget about bears. The only thing you need to worry about with bears is staying out of their way. And if you can, and again, we won't see this until the end of the next episode, if you can get a bear to kill other animals, wolves, boar, that's it. Yeah, mostly the wolves. Then, you can use that bear for your benefit so that you don't end up killing the animal yourself and voiding the trophy that we're working on here, Animal Friend. If you want to use the steel knife, get the steel knife, and use it to make clothes, those are all the animals that have to die, that you have to luck out and get the hides of, in order to make that all work, so that you have warmer clothes. So just keep that in mind. So we're finally gonna get the stove here, and we're definitely you're gonna see how we're gonna benefit from having the stove. It's definitely gonna help us out as the temperatures are starting to drop. A couple of the other things while we're putting this in, a couple of the corrections I wanted to mention. I went back and I watched the previous video. I found it kind of funny. I know I had mentioned the noise that this region that you can kind of stumble upon, the loud clanking noise. It actually happens in the previous video at about 18.5 minutes in, when we're at Magnolia's gas station. I walk behind the gas station and it makes the noise. And of course, I'm recording this audio on Share Factory on the PlayStation, so I'm watching the video and I'm not hearing what's coming through. Obviously, you don't want it feeding back while you're recording a second track. But I just found that amusing that the noise actually happened a few minutes before I actually talked about it and said to look out for it. Also, about I think the island before we arrived here at the marina, I had acquired enough alcohol and made sure to put one of those alcohols away so that we could actually use a torch. Something that I had just tested out today in my endless run, which I probably did mention. When you make a torch and you're on an island with wolves and snakes, the wolves will avoid you while that torch is lit, but the snakes will come straight for you. And I assumed you could get the snakes to bite the wolves if they were running along with you. I tested that out, at least on my endless run that I did today. That is not the case. These snakes will pursue you and ignore the wolves completely. So if you are on an island with both snakes and wolves and you want to walk around without killing any of the wolves or killing anything, keep in mind that the torch is going to be a blessing and a curse at the same time, because you'll be able to run around and check things out, but you're just going to have to be extra careful that the snakes don't get the upper hand on you. But I know that I did spend a lot of time in the previous video talking about making a torch and using it, and it seemed every time I was talking about making a torch, I was on screen making a bandage and using the supplies that you need to make a torch to make a bandage, and I just found that kind of funny. Also, I know there was at one point there was a campfire that I assumed I grabbed the charcoal out of, and I did not, at least not on the video. But you know, keep that in mind when you have a campfire, whether you create it or you are at a campsite. Grab the charcoal. You want to have at least 2 pieces of charcoal, so you could always make an extra water filter if you need it. I mean, if you're at the point where you have the water, I forget exactly what they call it for the raft. If you have the water filtration system, I guess, if you want to call it that, on the raft, then you don't really need to worry about it. But you don't want to run out of water, because you will die very quickly if you have no water. And if you're getting water, I mean, there's water everywhere, obviously, but if you're getting contaminated water and you can't filter it and clean it, you're risking getting 1 of 3 different nasty infections. I think it's Listeria, something that starts with a G, and dysentery, and none of those are fun. And the funny thing about all of them is they actually make you dehydrated faster. So you know, you're not going to accomplish anything by drinking contaminated water. So you should always grab the charcoal, so that you at least have two of those you combine to make a water filter. Mulberries we already talked about. Oh, and also the river dock goal. I should mention this. I thought, and every time I had gotten the river dock goal, I had almost instantly would get the notification that I had completed it. What that is for is for making penicillin. So if you already have penicillin in your inventory, it'll automatically give you that goal. I believe it was the stitching kit that we got, which makes sense, because it's a medical goal. It gives you a medical supply. Of course, stitching kits can be used to make clothing, but they also can be used to fix cuts and lacerations that you get. So that's what that is for. And I guess I had the penicillin was on the raft, and that's why when we got on the raft and left higher ground, that's when we got the goal. So just so you know, because that will probably pop up in your travels when you get the river dock. Of course, always read the goals and what they are asking you to do to get those rewards, because some of those rewards, especially in a playthrough like this, are definitely going to benefit you. I think here's where we get some corn. There's some corn. Okay. Yeah, so again, 2 pieces of corn can make an ash cake. Now we can use our stove. And something that I ran into playing Endless especially, but kind of pertains to at least how far into the campaign we are here, you're not going to get farmlands. So the only place you're going to see corn is in these little tiny little islands that you can't, that don't have docks but have things that you can grab. You'll get a piece of corn here and there. You'll get jerky, which is always great. You'll get like fishing line or fish hooks, grubs, the kind of stuff that you would think would be just kind of sitting on a rock, you know. But the corn is far and few between. So if you have one piece of corn for more than 10 days, it's worthless. And eating it will only give you 2 points of health. Again, it's really funny how they put this together. The corn spoils on its own, but 2 of them make an ash cake that'll feed you 20 points of nutrition and never spoils. Go figure. But that's how that works out, I guess. I also, if I haven't mentioned this before, knit hats and gloves, thin gloves. If you come upon those and you've already made your insulated hat and your insulated gloves, you could also grab them and then turn around and turn them into rags if you need rags for bandages or for splints or for anything else. So keep that in mind if you come across them. It's not, you know, if they're going to take up space in your inventory, you don't need them, don't worry about them. But if you're hurting for rags, you could always use those for that. So in about 30 seconds, we're going to enter into the 6th region. And one thing I want to mention about this region here, it's mostly the same kind of situation with Region 5. You're going to get kind of industrial looking areas. Looks like the side of a warehouse or a plant. But one thing that you may find in this region is you might come upon 1 or 2 bears. The bear is formally introduced in Region 7 at Angel Yards. You will definitely come in contact with the bear then. It's kind of part of the progression of the story. But I have stumbled upon 2 or 3 bears in Region 6 in many of my playthroughs. So keep that in mind. The thing about the bear is you'll know almost, well, there's a chance you'll know even as you get off of the raft. Here we got Churchgoer. As I said, that's a leather kit because we're stopping in the church. But the bear is usually very loud. You can usually hear him roaring a lot. If he hasn't been woken up by either you or another animal, he'll be sleeping in his cave, and he won't pay you any mind until you get close. So keep your distance if you are worried about it. But at the end of this video, we will arrive on an island, and I actually don't know at the end of this video that there's a bear on it. And when the next episode starts, I will run in, realize there's a bear and some wolves, and see that the wolves are being killed by the bear, and I'll quit out because I was still going under the assumption that if an animal died on an island you were on, whether or not you caused that animal to die, it was considered your fault and it voided the Animal Friends trophy. I find out later in the video, halfway through the next video, that it's nearly impossible to get through Angel Yards without the bear killing at least one wolf. Um, so it just simply wouldn't be fair to make a trophy that would require you to play through the campaign when one of the two specific story moments in the campaign has a bear, 3 wolves, and a bunch of snakes in it, and you cannot avoid coming right up to the bear. And if this is your first playthrough and you're not familiar with it yet, watch the next video when it comes out. About halfway through, we have to run up to I think it's a TV station, or no, it's a rocket. I forgot, it's a rocket. But I think it was a TV station first, and then somebody like built a rocket to who knows what. But right under whatever this thing is a bear, and a note that you have to read. Hypothermia. So right here was the first time I got hypothermia, and I just in the nick of time I crawled onto the raft, started up the stove, and thankfully I got very lucky, because I could have died right there and then if I didn't have something to warm me up. But I was luckily right next to the raft, so I crawled right on and I warmed up. That's why you want the stove. You want the stove at this point. Region 6, as I said, pretty much the same as Region 5, but it is colder. And there's more rapids, especially as you get close to Region 7. The rapids kind of pick up. Here's a bait shack. As I said, that's what the game calls this location, a bait shack or bait shop. So, bears, like I said, are useful, because if there's wolves, they could knock out all 3 wolves for you. If there's a boar, I mean, you could get the boar to run over, and the boar will, like, as soon as he notices the bear, he'll stop, he'll run over to the bear. The only problem with that, see, there's some night crawlers. Those expire within 3 days. So, not a ton of nutrition, but just keep that in mind. And again, I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this. The corn and the night crawlers and things like that, mulberries, if they spoil, they simply disappear from your inventory. So you don't have the option to eat spoiled worms or spoiled corn. Honestly, I think if corn spoils, they should make the corn turn into alcohol, because if it's fermented corn, it's basically on its way to becoming alcohol. So, but whatever, I didn't make the game. Anyway, so that's what happens with spoiled food. But the bears, boars, I think I was talking about with the bear. The only problem with the boar is the boar will charge at the bear, and then the bear will attack the boar basically inside his cave. So you can't get to the boar hide and meat if it's literally behind the bear in his cave. If the bear runs out and runs after a wolf or two, very risky, but you could always run into the cave and grab what the bear has in his collection. And if he happened to kill a boar and it's sitting inside the cave, you could also grab that. Bear caves is the only place you can find I can't remember exactly what it's spoiled fish, basically. It's some kind of fish. The only place you can get it is a bear cave, and you need it for the trophy where you eat, where you eat everything. Iron stomach. That's the trophy for eating all the bad stuff. Spoiled fish, tainted meat, devil's trumpet, raw meat, uncooked yucca, moldy lump, and spoiled meat. And when you eat this spoiled fish, you have a chance, not 100% chance, of getting some kind of infection, like some kind of stomach bug. So when you do that, just make sure you got your penicillin and your dandelion tea and your sumac tea ready to go. I'm almost positive that's one of the ones that needs sumac tea specifically, because I think I did that for the trophy, and then I didn't have sumac tea, and then for like 1 or 2 islands I was in trouble because I didn't have any sumac. So keep that in mind, that you can hold on to the fish as long as you want to. It will never spoil more and it will never disappear if you put it on your raft or you put it in your bag. So if you want to go for the iron stomach trophy, make sure with all those things that you know what you need to fix the affliction that you're going to bring on yourself by eating that stuff. I know I haven't been pointing out specific things that are going on in the gameplay here, but it's mostly more of the same. You know, onto an island, grab what you can, and avoid the animals as much as possible when there are some. So, there's not too much to point out specifically about what you're seeing in this video as far as gameplay is concerned. So I wanted to mention a couple trophies that we could kind of talk through, something I could share with you. Actually, in my endless run that I've been doing outside of making these videos, I got crafty about 2 or 3 nights ago. And so what I thought at one point was that you had to craft every single item in one specific playthrough. So I had focused on getting that in endless because, as I mentioned in a previous video, it's hard to craft all the bear garment pieces because to get enough spear traps or arrows, if you want to go that route, and find enough bears that you can get that many bear hides. Again, you need one for the hat, for the gloves, for the boots. You need 2 for the jackets. I'm sorry, 2 for the pants, and I think 2 for the jacket. So that's 7. But plan on getting 8 just in case I'm wrong. It's a lot. That's a lot to get in a playthrough when they're only in 2 or 3 of the regions, and they're definitely not on every island. And again, you need to have the supplies. You're not going to have enough spear traps and braided cords to make 4 traps per bear to kill 8 bears. Okay, it's just not going to happen in the playthrough. So I had resigned to worry about that on my endless run, and I randomly got it when I made a rabbit jacket, which apparently was a clothing item that I must not have never. I guess I never made it on any other playthrough on this account. So it must be cumulative, and I don't know how much that's going to help you because you still need to make all the bear outfit pieces. You need to make the elder wolf and the white wolf jackets, and you need to craft things like a torch or leather kits, steel knife, all that stuff. So that's definitely not a trophy you're going to be able to work on this playthrough because of all the different things you need and the animals you're going to have to kill to get it. But if you are wondering about crafty, from my experience, it's cumulative, and as long as you make every item at some point as you play along in this game, you should get it. The other 2 trophies that I had just worked on and gotten in my endless runs was the paleo diet and terraphobia. Um, paleo is not really conducive to a trophy guide video because it takes 40 days to play through. But basically, on endless mode, the very first 40 days, you have to start at the very beginning, which I forgot about, and then I had to restart endless a couple times. Just basically don't eat any plants for the first 40 days. So it's basically the opposite of what we're doing here. You can't eat any cattails, no yucca, no mulberries, none of that stuff for the first 40 days. If you're playing endless and you're familiar with the game and you're grabbing your saplings and your cattails and making braided cords, you know, you're going to start killing animals, and in the first 40 days you're not going to have too many problems at all getting enough meat and items such as that, so that you can stay healthy and not necessarily go hungry. But I just wanted to point that out because you have to keep in mind that that's the first 40 days. You can't miss that. And endless, I mean, if you're gonna try to play through this game as quickly as possibly, as efficiently as possibly, you need to set out on your endless run to travel 200 miles in your first run. So the first 40 days of that run, you want to make sure that you are not eating any plants so you can get paleo done. Because if you skip that, if you miss that, when you finally get to 200 miles, which is a long time, it takes a long time to get through there, and you may, if you're not familiar with the game, you might never get there. You know, you might run into enough problems in your travels that you might not make it to 200 on your first try. So you're looking at many hours playing through endless. So you want to make sure you don't forget to go for the paleo diet on your first playthrough, and just don't eat any plants those first 40 days. As I said, I just got the Under the Stars trophy in my endless run. That is sleeping, not sleeping in a shelter for 40 days in endless. There's no time frame on that one. That you can do whenever. And I actually chose to do it pretty much at the tail end of my paleo diet days, because I forgot at some point. I think I started out sleeping only on the boat. I think I may have packed Aesop's bag with raft upgrade items. I think I had some frames and hardware, some schematics, along with some jerky and some other things, so that I was good to go. And I'm almost positive I started the endless run by getting a shelter and only sleeping in that shelter, but at some point I forgot. But then I made sure to keep track once paleo was nearly done, and I realized that I had missed it. And I followed every single day, just made sure for 20 days that I did not, oh no, it's 40 days, that for 40 days on endless, the only place I slept was on the raft. It's pretty easy to do. You know, as I said before, we have the upgrade here in this playthrough. It's simple. You know, you go to an island, you get all your stuff, you come back to the raft. It gives you the option to sleep, or to fill up your water jar if you have the water thing, or to use the stove, or to leave. So it's pretty easy to make sure that you're getting your sleep when your exhaustion level is about halfway done. That's when, you know, You sleep for 4 hours and you're good to go. The other trophy that I worked on and was able to get through was Terraphobia. That's travel 10 miles on the river without stopping. And it proves to be a little bit more difficult than I remember it being. And there's one, oh, I see there I'm getting the goal for Handyman. That's very simple. Let's just go to a hardware store. But Terraphobia, I attempted it on an endless run. I think in between recording the video for this gameplay and I think the audio for the first episode, I think I had mentioned that I tried it and failed. Basically, what happens is in those 10 miles of traveling, even if you have all the food and all the water and gasoline to keep moving, eventually your exhaustion level is going to dip far enough that you're probably not going to be able to make the whole 10 miles without sleeping. And I discovered that you can collapse if you're exhausted. You hit the square button on PlayStation, you collapse, and you wake up completely refreshed without any hit to any of your other needs. And I was very surprised to find that as I'm on the raft, moving through rapids, moving close to islands, that hitting the square button to collapse out of exhaustion didn't make me crash my raft and die. And it was a scary moment there that I didn't expect to happen. But it worked out in the end, and I actually recorded it, and that video will be going up as soon as we finish getting through this Animal Friend run. I'll put that up just so you can see what I went through for those 10 miles, how I set it up, and how I got through all 10 miles without ever getting off the raft. Getting close to the end of the video here. In fact, I think this actually is the end. Yeah. So we're going to show up at this island, and we're not going to go much further. But we will pick it up in the next video, where I will discover there's a bear on this island. So look forward to seeing you then, and hope you're getting a lot out of these videos. Thanks.